I'm Jeff Hunt. He's Bill Thorpe. School's in, kind of.
Where'd all the students go?
Not to Colorado Public Schools. Enrollment sees biggest drop since 2020 as graduation rate continues to improve. What is going on here? Statewide dropout rate also hits an all-time low, according to new data from Colorado Education Department. So, hold on. I just want to understand this. Okay, here. People are no longer going to Colorado Public Schools at the same level they were. Those that are there are graduating at a higher rate and dropping out at a lower rate. Are they actually smarter? Or is there a thing called grade inflation taking place here? And are parents finally waking up to the disaster that is government-run education because your kids, according to standardized tests, aren't performing very well? Right? We're at, 20-30% of 8th graders in Denver public schools are actually at grade level with regards to math, yet graduation rates are at an all-time high? Man, that's a 4-year catch-up. Whoa. Or are we just passing them along, giving them degrees, and they're entering society totally incompetent? You could guess where I'm at on this one. We'll get to this and more. Billy's got a whole lot of educators in his family. This will be a fun one. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show. Now it's time for the news.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, news and comment.
Hey, good morning. It is Wednesday, 36 and a little bit cloudy in Denver, expecting a high of 54 today. News sponsored by Pastor Camp Heating and Air Conditioning at 303-777-1234 to learn more about special savings opportunities on Lennox equipment. Our top story, a ruling on DJT's tariff plan, could come from the Supreme Court today. The justices heard the case in early November. Monday, 47 said, quote, "We're screwed if the high court rules against the tariffs." Top White House officials are meeting with the foreign ministers of Denmark and Greenland as DJT ramps up his talk of acquiring Greenland. VP JD and Secretary of State Marco Rubio will be involved. 47 said NATO should be leading the way for U.S. to acquire Greenland. He added, if that doesn't happen, Russia or China will get Greenland. And DJT said, quote, "That's not going to happen." Matt Sharp, Alliance Defending Freedom, on with Jeff and Billy last hour. It appears the Supreme Court will uphold states' transgender athlete bans. Tuesday, the justices heard 2 cases challenging whether states can ban transgender girls, men, or boys, from participating in girls' and women's sports. The 6-3 conservative majority seems poised to uphold the bans, protect girls and women in sports. Matt Sharp.
Well, immediately the ACLU sues, challenges these laws, and those cases have now bubbled up to the U.S. Supreme Court, where the court is looking at simply the question of, under the Constitution and Title IX, can states pass laws that say a man, no matter how he identifies, cannot participate on a women's sports team? The arguments went very well overall. I think we had some great questions from the justices, especially ones getting to the flaws in the ACLU's argument, the flaws that we don't know what it means to be a man and woman. So overall, I was very encouraged and optimistic that we're going to get a good victory in this case.
Hey, DJT, he's not playing around with sanctuary cities like the city of Denver.
Starting February 1st, we're not making any payments to sanctuary cities or states having sanctuary cities because they do everything possible to protect criminals at the expense of American citizens.
11 states and D.C. and 5 of the country's biggest cities stand to lose federal funding because they have laws prohibiting cooperation with immigration agents.
Now, Blake, I just want to, I came across this audio, and this is a public service announcement to all the white college-educated women out there who are throwing themselves in front of cars and and creating all these problems. Here's a little just PSA.
Hey, white women, as a Latino, we appreciate your empathy. Okay, we really do. But I'm telling you right now, if the shoe was on the other foot, Latinos are not getting between you and federally armed agents to save you. All right? Like, if ICE tomorrow starts deporting short-haired white women with septum piercings, you're on your own. All right? Like, you're never going to hear Jose like, hey, you put that woman down. You leave Nadine alone. She has a cat and a one-bedroom apartment. You take her back to her yoga studio, fool.
That was hilarious.
I just thought,
I didn't see that one.
Y'all are going to the mat. Just a reminder, Jose ain't doing the same thing. In part,
Oh, man, that was
in
great.
part because Jose ain't dumb enough to do that. He knows when to keep his head down.
Boy, that is so true. They are not going to be doing that. They're not dumb enough to do that. That is great. Oh, my goodness. Thank you for that. Speaking of dumb, Colorado's AG Phil Weiser plans to create an online portal where citizens can report alleged misconduct by ICE agents. He announced the new portal Tuesday. The AG calls the conduct of some ICE agents outrageous. He added, no one is above the law, except for Jenna Griswold. And there needs to be a way to protect the people of Colorado. Did he mean protect the illegals or the people of Colorado? The portal will launch on the AG's website next week. I can't wait to look at the color scheme and the logo for this, if they have one. Is there a tab, by the way, to report protesters who aren't protesting peacefully? I want to see that, see if they can help us out with that on the website. So that's coming out next week. Big practice day today for the Broncos as they get ready for the Bills on Saturday at Mile High at 2:30 in the divisional round of the NFL playoffs. Mike Tomlin stepping down as head coach of the Steelers, 19 seasons, 1 Super Bowl victory, and never a losing season. It's best for both parties, it looks like. Jamal Murray, 35 points last night, and they keep on winning. Despite Jokic nursing an injury, and he'll be back hopefully in 3 weeks or so. Nuggets over the Pelicans 122-116. 35 in Westminster, 33 in Castle Rock, 36 in Denver. You're waking up with Jeff and Bill. It is Wednesday. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Expect a lot of high and mid-level clouds today, but mild, upper 50s and lower 60s. There is a very small chance of a rain or snow shower tonight as a weak disturbance passes through, lows in the low to mid-30s. Partly cloudy, a little cooler, mid-50s Wednesday, low to mid-30s Wednesday night, 55 to 60 on Thursday. It will trend colder for Friday and Saturday. Friday and Saturday's highs back down into the 40s with overnight lows in the low to mid-20s. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Joan from Lakewood asking to play that PSA again. This is from BTD Jokes. BTD Jokes on Instagram. I came across it. He's a comedian. He's just reminding white liberal women that maybe reconsider what you're doing here.
Hey, white women, as a Latino, we appreciate your empathy. Okay, we really do. But I'm telling you right now, if the shoe was on the other foot, Latinos are not getting between you and federally armed agents to save you. All right? Like, if ICE tomorrow starts deporting short-haired white women with septum piercings, you're on your own. All right? Like, you're never going to hear Jose like, hey, you put that woman down. You leave Nadine alone. She has a cat and a one-bedroom apartment. You take her back to her yoga studio, fool.
That's pretty good. That is pretty good. So go to his X account or his Instagram account. You can follow him there. All right. Headline from the Denver Post: Colorado public school enrollment sees biggest drop since 2020 as graduation rate continues to improve. Colorado's public schools recorded their lowest dropout rate ever during the last academic year as four-year graduation rates surpassed a 10-year high. What? According to new state data, yet these improvements come as statewide enrollment has fallen more than 10%, or more than 10,000 students, the largest decrease since the pandemic closed classrooms in 2020. People texting in places like Jefferson County also seeing enrollment drops. A few things that I think are going on here. One, I hope that people are waking up to the reality of what is government-run education, is that it is a captured institution to drive leftist activism. I was educated in government-run schools. I was educated all throughout the Cherry Creek school system. I know about the agendas that were driven and promoted in the curriculum and by the teachers themselves and among the student bodies. So I think people are waking up to what really happens is that you put these kids in schools. They don't really come out knowing how to read, write. Statistics show that SAT scores are at all-time lows while graduation rates are at record 10-year highs. So I think I think the system is geared towards just passing kids along, getting them through, get them that degree. Everything looks great. We got this headline that graduation rates continue to improve. Meanwhile, actual standardized tests show that kids aren't reading or writing at grade level. SAT and ACT scores are plummeting, and they're not actually being equipped with quality education. They're being changed and formed into little Democrat voters and activists. That's what I see in these statistics, and I'm glad people are waking up to it. Bill, you saw the headline, you read the article. What did you think?
Well, I wasn't necessarily surprised. What I did see, though, is that, again, it was across a number of different school districts and a number of different public schools, and that would also include, I think, charter school enrollment as well, because they're classified under public schools. So I don't think that we've had 10,000 students leave and go into private schools. So I kind of looked at some of the numbers, and what I saw is that the largest percentage in drop occurred in very small rural school districts. That's where large percentages, Aguiar lost 24% of their students, Arickaree 13% of the students, Flagler 10% of the students, where somewhere like Aurora was down about 4% of their students, and Adams County 14 down about 4%. So there seem to be outsized pockets of groups because of the rural communities. However, Aspen was only down 2%. Based on their enrollment. So I think some of this has to do with rural communities and the challenges there. We know that a lot of the rural communities, especially super small school districts in Colorado, have had some horrible challenges trying to keep teachers and pay teachers and everything else in order to get them into the community. And then also people just moving out, farms closing, ranches closing, small towns closing. You were recently in a small town in Colorado, Jeff, it's like barely a full block for Main Street kind of a thing. Yep. So
many businesses shuttered except for the pot shops.
Yeah. So the idea there is what's the school district and how many kids are they putting into the district? So I think that's part of it as well. And we also have seen an out-migration of people in Colorado, and they probably would take their kids as well. We've told the story of George Brockler. This is, again, a number of years ago, but George Brockler's brother took his family, which included his kids, and left the state and went to a different state because of affordability. But all of those kids would be withdrawn from the school system. And when we've seen an out-migration of especially those middle class earners, and that's what we saw, is that the middle is leaving while we were drawing in the higher earners. The higher earners would have the ability to get their kids into those private schools, plus there are less of them. So those middle earners that are leaving the state, they're taking their kids. That's what we're seeing. There are layers of problems inside of this population, economics, and also some of the base educational problems that are facing the schools as well that want people to leave. We've got more people homeschooling than ever before. So it is not just we're leaving the state. It's not just we're moving to a different community. It is in part a lot of people doing homeschool as well, but it's not all the 10,000. You're not seeing a 10% drop in Flagler because people have decided to homeschool.
Homeschooling does make the best kids, though. I'll tell you that as somebody who's hired a lot of young people when I worked at a university, and we had kids coming from private Christian, homeschool, government run, all that stuff. Homeschool kids were the best. They were the best project managers, self-managers, work on something, find avenues to solve problems. They were brilliant. Loved it. I think homeschool kids are the best prepared.
For me, it is dependent upon who the homeschool kids' parents are. And I've had experiences with both. I've had experiences with homeschool kids that have come out absolutely great. And I've had experiences with homeschool kids that are frickin' train wrecks. I'm sorry. I have to say this. And I'm only saying this because this family has moved out of state and moved out a number of years ago. But their two kids that were being homeschooled, oh my God, were they morons. Absolute idiots. And they were at least 2 grades behind on everything, absolutely everything. And the reason I say this is because one of them was friends with my daughter. And so I got a one-on-one experience of talking to them and realizing that you don't even understand basic math. And again, that's because their parents were train wrecks. Absolute train wrecks. It is on them. And that was it. So I have not had the universal experience that you have had. I've had a mixed bag, more good than bad. But I've met some homeschool kids that are ridiculous. They actually tried to mainstream their kids during 1 year, and they were trying to get their kids into a specific grade. The school wouldn't let them into that grade because they wouldn't test at that grade. And they were actually put into, one was directed to go in a grade 2 below. They negotiated it and get to 1 grade below where they should have been. And they were yanked out 2/3 of the way through the school year because they were failing all their classes and they couldn't keep up with the schoolwork. So, yeah, but that's, again, parents. That's
As
the
you
parents.
mentioned, it's a complicated problem with different avenues that make this. I was going to say assets, but avenues that drive this problem. One, the drop in students is partly the result of fewer Coloradans having babies. Thank you, progressives, for not building families. Secondly, immigrants are leaving.
Yeah.
I mean, are they just finally admitting that we were using their tax dollars to go pay for kids that should have never been in this country in the first place to go to school? And I think you could, look, I'm going to hear the argument, it's better that they go to school, that's how they assimilate, all that stuff. But they shouldn't have been in this country in the first place, and our tax dollars going to their education. That's a problem.
The thing is, I disagree with you saying they're all, it said immigrants leaving, it didn't say all illegal immigrants. And there is a continuum of individuals that are immigrants. I mean, remember, despite recent history with the guy who was in Afghanistan helping out our troops there and then shooting 2 National Guard members here in Colorado, we have a program where we brought in people from other countries because they assisted us in some wartime activities, and they would also be considered immigrants. And anybody that would come in on a green card also considered an immigrant. Anybody under asylum also considered an immigrant. So it's not necessarily just the illegals. That in my mind makes it too easy.
You think that people that are here legally or are waiting for assimilation are fleeing as well?
Yeah, because what we saw is the demographic of those middle income earners as a whole are leaving. And inside of that group would be some people that are immigrants, the legal kind. The illegal immigrants, I'm not certain how they would be counted per se, but that would be part of it. Yeah, part of it is illegal immigration, but part of it is legal immigrants as well. Because it's hard for me to believe that a way significant portion, like 80-90% of those kids were all illegal. I haven't seen those numbers, and especially remember, Jeff, we're the sanctuary city. So it's not as if these people have been arrested, deported, taken out of the system.
Yeah, I know.
And they would be, but they would also, again, the issue of the sanctuary city is because you're saying they'd be safe here. So that's kind of the issue. Is I could see it if we were in a city that wasn't necessarily calling themselves a sanctuary city. I think that we could.
The article says fewer immigrant students are attending schools as Trump administration ramps up mass deportations.
Oh yeah,
so
yeah, they're just not showing up. Yeah, some of them are just not
no,
going to
they're
school.
here illegally.
Not that they're leaving
and they're
here.
getting out.
Oh, not necessarily. I mean, there was a video just that circulated in the last 5 days of ICE arresting what appears to be an immigrant at a Target. He's an employee. He has the red shirt on, and he is at work at the time. They chase him through the store. They arrest him, and he's face down at the entrance. They arrest him, and they take him away. He's an American citizen. They didn't check beforehand. He's an American citizen, and the thing that is heartbreaking in that video is once he gets released, hours later, they just drop him off on the street, he breaks down. He is sobbing over the situation. I mean, it is a traumatic experience for him, and he's an American citizen. And they grabbed him, it looks like, because of the color of his skin and the accent that he has. And so I can see why, if I was a family that even could be here on asylum, something that would be perfectly reasonable, but my kid has an accent or looks very Spanish, why I wouldn't put him into the school? Because we've seen, and it's been adjudicated by the Supreme Court, that even an accent or an appearance is enough to stop and detain somebody. So yeah, I can see that. Why wouldn't they?
We're talking the state of Colorado's public schools. Colorado Public Schools enrollment has seen its biggest drop since 2020 as graduation rates continue to improve. Do you think there's grade inflation happening?
Yeah, I believe so. I believe there's great inflation simply because, and the reason I believe that is because I am not seeing kids that underperform held back. And that's more of it. Rather than the idea that we are giving people grades way above and beyond on the top end, like the overachievers, I believe that where the grade inflation happens is individuals that are not performing at grade level get passed on. And there are a variety of reasons for that. And it hurts everybody involved and eventually ends up hurting the community at the tail end when those kids get out into public and they don't have the skill set that they should have coming out of school. Yeah, that's where I think the grade inflation happens, is the idea that we're passing kids, and we do it all the time. Kids that never should go from one grade to the next get moved on to the next grade.
Feel free to join the conversation. The city of Denver, DPS, had to spend $228 million annually just to deal with illegal immigrants in its schools. $228 million, according to Common Sense Institute's reports on the migrant crisis that took place. Now, because of mass deportations, they're leaving. And as a result, Colorado Public School enrollment has seen its biggest drop since 2020. A good thing. Is this clearing out people we shouldn't have been spending money on in the first place with regards to schools? Go back to your country. Go back and get your education there. It's not the job of all the other families here in Colorado to pay the tax dollars to educate kids that shouldn't be here in the first place. Or is this the collapse of government-run education that's been producing little Democrat activists over the years, not necessarily educating kids, just passing them along through the system, not preparing them well in life? You're watching the biggest drop in Colorado public school enrollment since 2020. Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Is this how we commonly educate our kids? We all need a place where we come together to be educated as Americans. And we no longer have that because we have homeschool, we have private, charter, government run, all that stuff. Give us a call. Join the conversation. 303-696-1971. Text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line, 720-819-5115. Let's go and talk Black Eyed Pea of Colorado, locally owned and run by Stephen Michelle. That's important to me because it's locally owned and operated. My whole family loves this restaurant. It's our go-to place for lunch right after church on Sundays. Yours will love it as well. They got lots of different options that the entire family will love. They got 9 locations now. There's sure to be one near you. They recently opened one in Fort Collins. Visit them at 807 East Harmony Road. This is the restaurant you want to take the family to. Keep it in Colorado. These are the people I want to proudly support, and you can too. Take everyone out to eat at the Black Eyed Pea. It's home-style cooking worth going out for. They make everything from scratch. Ranch-style pork chops, mushroom Swiss chicken, ribeye steak, St. Louis ribs, the mile-high meatloaf. They've got daily specials and senior discounts. The Black Eyed Pea has what your family's hungry for. Black Eyed Pea also does catering. Your dinner party, rehearsal dinner, wedding reception, or company event will be a success when you look to the Black Eyed Pea. Hear me on this. I love everything about this restaurant. Visit the Black Eyed Pea near you, blackeyedpeacolorado.com. That's blackeyedpeacolorado.com. Text messages in. Does anyone want to hire a homeschool Duggar? Those kids couldn't write a complete sentence, couldn't do basic math, and for science, thought the Earth was created 6,000 years ago in 6 days. They were perfectly capable kids who were turned into lip-strumming morons. Goldbrick learned to denigrate others in his government-run education. All right. We'll continue. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Colorado public school enrollment sees biggest drop since 2020 as graduation rates continue to improve. Billy and I disagreeing as to the reason why the enrollment drop is happening, but agree that graduation rates and grade inflation is likely taking place these days. Teachers are like, I'm not putting up with another year with this guy. This is somebody else's problem. At the end of the day, I think, Bill, you and I could both agree, though, that a lot of this comes down to the parents. Whether it's homeschool, private, or even government-run education, if the kids aren't performing well, it's probably due to the parents.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of that. There's something some of the people that are educators in my family, here's a great example of how small choices by a parent can lead to a larger impression from a child. One of my kids that works in the school district says there is a group of parents that will regularly, as in on a weekly basis, several times a week, call their kids out of school early. I need to pick my kid up a half an hour, 15 minutes early today. Several times a week that happens. Why? Not because of an appointment. The parent doesn't want to wait in a long line to pick them up after school. It is pulling the kid out of school for parental convenience. So what is the message that the student is receiving from their parent at that time? That our personal convenience takes priority over you having your butt in that classroom, paying attention, and turning in the work. Are you surprised when kids like that don't turn in their work on time, don't take tests seriously, misbehave inside of school? What have their parents told them is the priority? There's someone in my family that works at an elementary school. The number of parents that feel it is their right to block a traffic lane to prevent a bus from getting access to the parking lot. The buses have places in which they need to pick up the kids. Some of these are special ed kids that exist in wheelchairs. Yet the parents in this situation feel that because they would be inconvenienced by moving their car further away, and both they and their young bundle of joy would have to use those two long appendages below their waist to locomote a little further than normal. That is an undue burden on them. How dare you tell them to move so that other kids can get onto the bus, despite the fact that there are clear signs saying bus parking and bus lane. Doesn't matter. So that's part of it. That's part of the approach of the parents not taking the educational system and process seriously. How many parents, if their kid is failing, their first reaction isn't, my kid's not pulling their weight, but instead, the teacher and the school is failing them. How many parents, when hearing that their student is not performing up to standards, turn around and say, the blame doesn't lie with the performance or the effort of my special little person. It's the school. The school is the one that is failing me, and you are the problem. You've now insulated the kid on any sort of behavior issues. Yeah, that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing.
We're both granting that the school is not the primary educator. The parent is.
Well, I wouldn't say the primary educator. The school is, well, I would say the school is not the primary example of behavior and discipline. It is the parent. That's where I'm going with it. Because, and what I'm saying by that is when the parent doesn't show a preference for education or show discipline and wants to make sure that the kids perform at grade level, when they are making excuses for them, it's that side of it. So I'm not certain I would say that the parent is the primary educator, but the parent is the person that sets the stage for how education is going to be treated inside of that family.
Well, who is the primary educator?
Well, primary educator, it depends on what you're doing. The primary, because again, it depends on how we're defining primary educator.
Yeah, like
if we're talking
who has
about
the responsibility?
Well, here's the thing. If we are talking about things like social settings and the idea of performance, primary educators would be the parents. But if the student is not performing or isn't able to, or having problems with things like geometry, etc., then the education is the primary educator in that situation, or geology or physics. The primary educator would be the school in that situation, because the parent isn't primarily responsible for that particular education. So again, it's how we define it.
Okay, so 23% of 8th graders in Denver public schools are proficient in math.
Yeah.
Who do you blame?
There are layers. I blame the school system and the parents and the students. They all bear responsibility. The students bear responsibility for not doing the work. The students bear the responsibility for not getting additional help when they were not performing at grade level. The students bear the responsibility for not getting that extra tutoring and seeking out the extra answers. The parents have the responsibility for not making sure that the expectations that are placed on them by the school system were met. And then the school system has the problem and has the responsibility because they are not getting the kid to perform at grade level per expectations. And normally what would happen in that situation is there would be remedial work, and then they would be brought up to grade level. And in my mind, that would mean, okay, you didn't pass math this year. All right, you're going to go to summer school. And if you cannot perform at grade level at the end of summer school, you are repeating the grade. Full stop. Full stop.
I mean, we have a system right now where 77% of the kids in Denver public schools, 8th grade, are not proficient. 77%, nearly 80%. And we're saying, well, there's a problem. There's a problem out there with the students and the parents and the system. And then we're passing these kids along at record graduation rates, and we're just dumping them out into society. And then what? Does anything magically change with these people when they turn 18, 19 years old and start getting jobs? We've already demonstrated there's a problem. They're not proficient. And as Bill just laid out, it's a student problem, it's a parent problem, it's a system teacher problem as well. So then we're just passing them along. We've already agreed that there's great inflation taking place here. They're just getting kicked out into society. And do you think that those 77% are self-sufficient? You don't think that there's government resources, taxpayer resources going in to support their lives, whether it's healthcare, housing, food? There's a brokenness right here, a big brokenness that we're not addressing as a society, and we're making a lot of other people pay for it. Join the conversation. Give me a call. 303-696-1971. Text us on the Dan Capitalist Law text line at 720-819-5115. Colorado Public Schools enrollment sees its biggest drop since 2020, in part because illegal immigrants are heading home, in part, too, because I think parents aren't buying the value proposition of government-run education anymore. 80% of the kids in DPS schools are not proficient at math. So what are you doing? What are you sending your kid to do? Is it just glorified daycare at this point? And then they're being passed along to what? To become dependent upon a system that hardworking taxpayers have to support? Let's go to the phone lines. Brandon in Denver. Good morning, Brandon. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Morning.
Hello. Good morning. Good conversation. Couple things. We're dealing with a society in which there's a lot of selfishness and pleasure seeking. So the example of parents not wanting to be communal and let the buses in and stuff, I mean, that's just parents being selfish. And younger millennials and Z, I mean, they're having the kids. So there's a lot of selfishness in these parents, okay? And pleasure seeking. What's best for me? That's one issue. It's prevalent. And that also applies to some of the teachers as well. They're selfish. My time, my thing. I'm not dealing with this. I don't want to direct these kids. And, can somebody come in here and help me have a better day? So between the parents and some of these teachers, folks don't want to do the work, so that's a problem. Then there's another prevalent problem is what I would call the outsourcing of pain. So what that means is people are blaming someone else, whether it be another teacher, the district, a billionaire. Somebody else is responsible for the pain I'm experiencing. You know, I got a stomach ache today, and that's my neighbor's fault. So people are outsourcing their issues, selfish, pleasure-seeking. And then the third point is parents and the school are responsible. So I look at it like this. The parents are the roots. If you take a plant, if you ask a farmer, you plant, the plant has roots, that's the family. And what flourishes on top, that's the school, that's the teacher. So the chemistry teacher, I'm responsible for my kids' education. I'm the roots. Go to school and listen to the teacher. Now, if I do that in the root level, then the teacher can flourish. That's the flower. See, that's the flower. So that's how I see it. Parents are the roots, and the school system is the flower on top, and that's how we get the job done, and we can have a good future. But we got a lot of issues right now.
I thought that was a really good analysis, Bill. What do you think?
That's a really good, Brendan. Now, here's the thing. Now, let's just pretend this morning that I'm going to hand you the Jeff and Bill magic wand, and you are able to change our approach to education. What would you do? What would you change inside of how our educational system is structured in order to get the outcomes that you would like to see? All right, there's the wand. What do you do?
I love it. I would put the burden and pressure. It's a classic thing on middle management, the principals. Right to the principals, hey, listen, you guys got issues inside the school. You got issues out there in the parking lot and driveway. Get it together. These principals and administrators, you know, all you need is 2 or 3. You need 3 people, a principal, vice principal, and a counselor or some other administrator. Get it together. Press the teachers. We're not dealing with this in here. Okay, get it together. And you communicate with the family. Listen, we're going to have people out there moving you along. You're not going to be blocking up spots and these buses and everything. These principals got to get out there and direct, like George Washington. Get out there in the field and tell these parents, you ain't doing this. You ain't doing this in my school. It ain't happening here. So some places, but that's where I would put the pressure. These principals, they got to stop being selfish, and they got to stop pleasure seeking, and they got to stop, you know, when's my next raise and all this stuff. They got to get out there and do their job. And that's where I would put the heat on these principals, and they got to deal with inside the school issues, and they got to deal with the community. And that's just their job. I would do a lot. I would put the heat right there, and the district needs to support those principals, and the family needs to respect.
Damn.
Respect that principle.
Look at what you did with that magic wand. Nice job, Brandon.
I appreciate Brandon's approach and focus on personal responsibility and delayed gratification, which is not pushed in the society very much. It's a lot of dependency and blaming other people. And Brandon, really appreciate your time today. Thank
Brandon,
you, sir.
That is absolutely fantastic, Brandon. I really appreciate that comment. And what I would like the audience to listen to, what Brandon had said is, imagine what would happen in your community with your family if you had a school principal that came out, and this is like the first get-to-know-you meeting with the parents, and one of the main points that principal starts with is every single child that graduates from my school will be able to perform, if not exceed, state standards. We will not graduate anybody out of this building that cannot do the work. What do you think as a parent if the principal told you that on day one?
I think initially you'd get some excitement, but then all the low-performing families would leave, and you would be blamed for not caring enough for the low-performing families.
Here's the thing. Here's what I thought about that one. Brandon, thank you so much for the call. Here's what I thought about with that one. Then what you do, you push back, and you say, hang on, what are my performance levels? What are my test scores? You're telling me that now my school, and I'm going to anticipate that if that happens, my school will start outperforming not only the district, but the state standards. Now I want administration to come to me and tell me that my school that is mandating that the kids perform at standard is somehow detrimental when I'm outperforming every other school out there. That's the argument I want to have with the administration.
Ace from Aurora saying they can't do that, Billy. they'll never be able to get away with it
I
because it's all
know.
about DEI and equity these days.
Well, it's not all about DEI and equity. It's about inequity. It's about, and I've seen this, and the reason I say that is because I have seen this happen in the school systems long before DEI was ever a buzzword. It's the issue that it sounds good until it's your kid. As soon as you have to sit down as a parent and acknowledge that your child isn't performing at grade level for whatever reason, your first reaction is defensive. That's what happens. And that's the problem we have. Rather than trying to get the kid to perform at grade level, we want to find a reason to blame the school. That happened long before DEI was a buzzword.
Also, a reminder out there to parents who wanted to be involved in their education, Republicans pushed that your curriculum content would be available online for you to review, and Democrats spiked that. So you can't even really know what your kids are learning unless you go grab the book and look at it yourself. God forbid you actually have the opportunity to search and look up things online. All right, we'll get to the phone lines. They're hot on this one. Discover incredible savings at the Mountain High Appliance Clearance Center in Denver. Their clearance center offers a huge selection of ranges, refrigerators, washers, dryers, and more. Save up to 60% on open box, scratch, and dent display models and overstocked appliances from Bosch, Thermador, KitchenAid, and much more. When you're looking for great deals on appliances, think Mountain High Appliance Clearance Center for the best prices and selection. 601 East 64th Avenue in Denver. Again, 601 East 64th Avenue in Denver. Go check out the great people at Mountain High Appliance and their clearance center in Denver. All right, phone line's hot. Join the conversation, 303-696-1971. Text us on the Dan Capitalist Law text line, 720-819-5115. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Colorado Public School enrollment sees its biggest drop since 2020, Denver Post reports. But as graduation rates continue to improve, we're just experiencing grade inflation at this point, passing the kids on, get them out. We don't really care how they do. I mean, only 23% of 8th graders in Denver Public Schools are proficient in math. So what happens between that? The 80% kids all of a sudden get really smart in high school, and then we graduate them? Are we actually preparing these kids for a successful future? Let's go to the phone lines. Robert in Littleton. Good morning, Robert. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Morning.
Hey, good morning, fellas. I think in order to kind of address the problem, we kind of have to look at the history of public education and the original intent behind it. And it was designed so that every kid would have kind of a baseline education. It was never designed to be, that kids are graduating with advanced degrees or something like that from high school. It was that they've got the basics, the reading, the writing, the arithmetic, add in some history, some science, et cetera, et cetera. And it was designed with kind of a tripartite system of responsibility where the family at home was responsible for instilling in the kids the discipline, the work ethic, et cetera, to actually do the work. The kids were then responsible for actually doing the work, paying attention in class, asking questions when they didn't understand, et cetera. And then the teachers were responsible for imparting the information and delivering the actual education of it. We have now graduated to a system, no pun intended, where schools are financially incentivized to graduate as many kids as they can. Because if you see those graduation rates drop or those pass rates from class, grade level to grade level drop, they lose money. And God forbid, you can't do that.
Yeah,
but
Robert, there's a text message here to that point that graduation has just become a participation ribbon.
Well, and it very much, I won't say entirely, but to a large extent has become a participation ribbon. But why are so many kids struggling? Do we just suddenly have a bunch of dumb kids that can't learn the information and can't do the test? I find that very difficult to believe.
Robert, how about...
What we have is a lot of lazy kids who have been taught, as your previous caller alluded to, that nothing is your fault. And if nothing is your fault, then nothing is your responsibility.
Yeah.
And then you have the family system at home where, as Bill said, and I agree wholeheartedly with you on this, Bill, the first reaction of parents when their child is underperforming is not, what the hell are you doing or not doing? It's, why does my kid's teacher hate them? And now you've got an extremely toxic and basically worthless system.
Yeah, and part of it,
nobody's
Robert,
responsible for anything. Success doesn't matter because failure doesn't matter. There are no consequences for failure. Therefore, the rewards for success are mitigated. And you got kids that work really hard. And I watch this especially with my older daughter, who is now in her 30s. When she was in high school, she busted her butt. And then she saw the kids that only showed up half the time and got C's across the board graduate on the same stage, with the same accolades. And she went, why? Why did I even bother?
Yeah, there's a lot of that, and it's difficult once the parents make the school the enemy to then tell the kid that they have to then be engaged in their education. That once there's that idea that, well, it's not your fault, my little bundle of joy, that you didn't decide to turn in all these math assignments or do the homework or even raise your hand when falling behind and ask for extra help. The school, it was their responsibility to do that. And once you create that adversarial relationship that the parent has told the student that it is a school's fault they're not achieving, then why would the student, one, listen to the school, two, try to achieve? They've been told by their parent it was the school's fault. I've seen meetings about that.
Absolutely.
I mean, I brought up the story, Robert, of my mother when she was a high school principal having a parent sit across from her during a disciplinary meeting and say, well, you got them for 6 to 7 hours a day. Why can't you fix them?
You think that explains 80% of kids, though?
Well, the 80%, now this is my opinion, Robert, the 80% falls behind because of the 3 to 5% that are such a problem. All you need is 2 to 3 kids inside of a single classroom to create enough disruptions so that the entire classroom falls behind, because every time that teacher has to stop instruction in order to deal with the disciplinary issue, everybody in the classroom
but
stops
then that's
learning.
an argument for school choice. Give parents the opportunity to get their kids away from those bad kids.
Or the argument,
it is.
or the argument for discipline. Discipline the kids and get them the hell out of
Bill,
that
I've
classroom
been
situation.
pushing for nuns to beat kids in school, and you've said no to that.
Well,
Go
yeah.
ahead, Robert.
Not enough
No,
nuns.
I'm a huge proponent of discipline in the classroom. I'm not sure that boots to butts is the right discipline in the classroom, although I'm an old school guy, so, sure, I'm sold. That having been said, I think one of the biggest problems that we see also, though, is the size of the classes. Back when I was a kid and got, when we were still riding dinosaurs to school kind of thing, we had 18 to 25 kids in a class, tops. I watched when my older daughter was in high school, there were 35 to 40 kids. My younger daughter is in high school now. It's about the same. It is incredibly difficult for a single teacher to be able to
manage all that. You're right. Robert Littleton,
brilliant point to
really
end on.
appreciate
Nice
the
job,
call.
man.
Thanks so much, Stephanie Hancock, Aurora City Councilwoman, live in studio next. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
Yeah. Hopefully we all got smarter this hour. We'll catch you in a minute. This is KNUS.